Hershey Kisses. Is Jesus still alive all these years later? Has anyone seen him? People talk of miracles. I just heard from a friend that her friend went to an oncologist and found that her malignant tumor had disappeared. I also heard that a woman who was thought to be barren and thus adopted 2 children just became pregnant. They say that Jesus is the reason. You mean the Jesus who walked on the earth 2009 years ago? I don't see the wind, but I can see the results of its power as it drags a tree down in my yard. When I was 13, I witnessed my baby cousin enter the world right before my very eyes. I felt as though I witnessed a miracle. I thought that there had to be a God to have created this wondrous, beautiful gift. So maybe Jesus is still alive and is still performing miracles. My experiences have taught me that if one opens his or her eyes of faith, he will see God's hand at work in his life. Faith and prayer move the hand of God. Repeatedly throughout Jesus' brief period of evangelizing, he worked miracles. Almost every time following a healing, Jesus said, "Your faith has healed you." People in need would approach Jesus. He would ask them what they wanted of him, even though he already knew. He quite often was moved and filled with empathy. Out of love, he answered their prayers, and they were healed. At 23, I opened my heart to this Jesus. I prayed, not knowing for sure if there really was a God who exists, who knows who I am, and hears my prayers. I was sad and lonely. I prayed out to God every night. God heard. He responded to my prayers. Shortly after crying out to him, I was invited to a prayer meeting. I met people who were kind to me and filled with love for God and for others. My loneliness and sadness began to fade. Yes, there is a God who loves me. From that point in my life, God blessed me with the gift of faith. I didn't doubt that he was present in my everyday life. I didn't doubt that if I spoke to him in my heart, that he heard me. From then until now, at the age of 43, my faith has repeatedly seen God's presence in the simplest moments and in my deepest dark moments. These moments in my life can be described as miracles. A supernatural power or grace intervenes in my mortal world. I like to think of these divine moments as if they were God, my Father, handing me a Hershey kiss. Imagine a father who has a 10-year-old daughter. Every now and then he finds himself stopping at the local milk store and decides he'd like to make his daughter smile by giving her a sweet treat. He eyes the candy aisle and spots a bag of Hershey Kisses. He gets home from the store and greets his daughter with a hug and hands her a Hershey kiss. A huge grin explodes on her face. She knows that her father did this as a sign of his love. She is touched and wraps her arms around her father and gives him an even bigger hug than the first one. This is her way of saying that she loves him too. In the past few months, I can think of 2 of these moments. The first one happened on Easter morning. Prior to that morning, I had been experiencing a very difficult time. Ironically, it was the church season of Lent. I had been experiencing severe symptoms of chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, and thus I was also experiencing depression. I felt as if I were living in a dark and gloomy world. Many times I found myself turning to God for help. I prayed that he would shine his light into my darkness. During Lent, I had passed a church that displayed a sign by the road that read, "Sunrise Service on Easter Morning." I had always wanted to attend a sunrise service on Easter. I had never been to this church before, but on Easter morning I woke my husband and 3 small children at 6 a.m. to attend the sunrise service. The temperature was in the high 30s. I bundled up my children and brought blankets to wrap them up. It was a beautiful, joy-filled service with the living Passion. As we were leaving the service, I noticed the sun rising above the tree line. I thought it appropriate to take a picture of the sunrise. I took 2 pictures. Later that day, I downloaded the pictures on my computer. As my husband and I viewed the pictures of the sun blown up on the screen, we noticed something curious about the second picture that I took. There was a white image in the sky. My husband thought that it looked like the risen Christ. In that same picture, there were sunbeams that formed a cross, and a red diamond appeared on the cross. None of these things appeared in the first picture, which I took a minute earlier. I prayed and asked God if this was a sign of His presence, and He brought to my mind the story of the Transfiguration from the Bible. There is a verse that states, "His," meaning Jesus, "his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light." Matthew chapter 17, verse 2. Immediately, I felt that God had given me a Hershey kiss. I had been praying for His light, and He came in the form of light during the rising of the Easter sun. Several months later, my husband and I celebrated our anniversary by vacationing at an inn on the harbor. While there, I had taken pictures of every sunrise and sunset. I took pictures of everything and everyone, it seems. One evening, my husband and I decided to walk the beach under the light of the moon. It was the only time that I didn't have my camera. I had reluctantly forgotten it back at the inn. The moon was making a grand show of itself. I so desired to take a picture of it. The next morning I rose to take pictures of the sunrise. After the sun had fully risen, and it shone amidst a bright blue sky, I got up to put my camera away. However, from a different view I spotted the moon, which still shone faintly in the sky. I took a picture of it. I don't know why I did. There was nothing special about it. But it really was special, after all. When my digital camera revealed the picture in its small screen, it depicted a bright moon and a black sky. It was hard to believe what my eyes were showing me. I showed my husband, and then the caretakers of the inn, both of whom possessed knowledge of photography. No one could explain the picture scientifically. I knew then that my Father in heaven, who was with me on this earth, handed me a Hershey kiss. God gave me the picture of the moon that I so wanted the night before. Maybe it was His anniversary gift to my husband and me. Did I do anything to deserve these kisses? Am I special or something? I do not feel that I am more special than any other human being that God created. We are all His children. He loves us all the same. None of us deserve His attention or love more than another. I think that God has Hershey kisses for all of His children. Some of them aren't present to receive them, while others blatantly deny the Father's love and thus His gifts. Then there are others who don't think that they deserve a gift from their Father, so they sadly turn it away. Me? I'm a chocoholic. I have my hands out begging my Father for more kisses. Life is full of disappointments, so God, who is the same God that performed miracles in the life of Jesus Christ, gives us moments to encourage us. All we have to say is, "Thank you, God." Afterthought. On the day that I sat at my computer writing this piece, I received a gift in the mail. My aunt sent me a plaque, just because. It says, "I never met a chocolate I didn't like." Coincidence or God incidence?